Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for being here. We're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to get logged in and all set with the Zoom. But as people are joining, we would love to learn a little bit about what brought you here to this conversation and how you've been enjoying your summer. So if you'd like to add something to the chat box, feel free to do that now. Great. Okay. It looks like we've had a great amount of people join. So we're going to get started. So thank you again for all joining us. This conversation is super important and timely as our families are getting ready to go back to school and start off the school year. So thank you for joining us. Just a few housekeeping things. Please note that today's conversation will be recorded and posted for others to view at a later date. We have set aside some time at the end of the call to allow for questions and answers. And you'll see at the bottom of your screen a Q&A icon. So if you do have any questions come up at any time during the conversation, please feel free to put them there and we will do our best to get to those at the end. And today I am so happy to let you know that we are here and we will hear from some CEO and President Ralph Boyd, the Vice President of Family Services, Archie Williams, and our wonderful, amazing resident of our accelerated housing program, Miss Jones, to hear the important work that our family services team does, which is only made possible because of the generous support we receive. So to get started, we're going to launch a poll to help us understand what you're most interested in learning about this morning. So if you could please take a few seconds to complete the poll when it appears on your screen, that would be great. And it will help us sort of guide the conversation moving forward. Wonderful. Okay, so now let's see if we can sort of get a sense of what the audience is most interested in learning about this morning. Wow, great. So it looks like affordable housing for families came in as the most interesting topic for those joining us, followed by two very other important aspects of the work. And we will definitely make sure that we hit on every single one of these throughout the call. So thank you so much for letting us know what really brought you here this morning. And now we're going to get started on the panel. So our first question is for Ralph. And I was wondering what SUMS Family Services are and how do SUMS Family Services work with our other programs at SUM?
Yes, thank you, Allison, and good morning, everyone. It's great to have so many folks joining us this morning. So in response to your questions, Allison, let me provide a little context for people understanding our family services programming and where it fits within the SUM mission. And I want to do that by sharing with the audience a very clear kind of restatement, if you will, of our mission. And the reason I think this is so important in the broader context is that, as many people know, the last 9 months we've been embarked on formulating what I think is a dynamic and inspiring 5-year strategic plan for our organization. And the work of creating that plan and prioritizing what we will do to advance our mission over the course of the next 5 years has been an organization-wide undertaking. There have been over 50 people in the organization who've been involved in formulating that plan, representing all that we do in all of our various service lines and departments. And one of the things that we have said repeatedly as a part of that process, and in the dozens, if not hundreds of meetings that we've had in big groups and smaller groups throughout this process, is to focus on why we're doing all this. And it really boils down to these things. We are in this business, this mission business, to save lives, to improve lives, to stabilize families, and to transform families and individuals in the neighborhoods and communities where they live. Change trajectories for people and families to far better outcomes in sustainable ways. So we're in the life-saving, life-improving, and life-transforming business. So with that said, I would just say everything that we do, including especially in our supportive services generally and our family services specifically, everything we do in our 9 lines of service should be viewed through that lens. So now let me answer directly the question, since I've set the table in that way. So since about 2008, affordable housing with supportive services has been a really foundational, critical focus of SUM, and family services is a crucial part of that supportive services network, if you will, at SUM. We've found that this focus on affordable housing with services wasn't randomly, we didn't get there in a random way. We focused on housing, affordable, accessible housing with services, because we know that having access to stable housing and being able to avail oneself of it is really a key determinant of health and well-being for individuals and families. And simply put, if people are stably housed, they do better. They do better by every key well-being metric you might come up with to measure well-being. Housing is really the best platform for which to deliver services for people. And families in particular, and for providing them with the critical human services they need to stabilize, improve, transform, and advance in sustainable ways. So family services, using the case management model, if you will, or methodology, is what we do in the context of our housing programs at SUM. We take a holistic view to family services, focusing on several, but I would say 4 main areas: education, economic development, mental health and wellness, and community engagement. So let me say a little bit specifically about that and then throw the mic back to you. So in the education context, we're talking about everything from programs like financial literacy programs for adults, to children's after-school extended day programs. In the economic development space, we're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about teaching sound budgeting practices and discipline. We're talking about job training and employment readiness. And we're also talking about wealth creation. Yes, wealth creation, through the vehicle of providing a visible path for families who desire it, who aspire to it, to home ownership. Because almost all of us know or believe, and I say this all the time, I actually preach this, is that home ownership is probably the greatest wealth creation vehicle humankind has ever come up with. Almost all of us know that owning our own home was our first real investment in generating equity for ourselves and our families. If we're really disciplined and smart, like I hope young people are today, 401ks are another way to do that. But home ownership is the way people build equity. It's the way we build wealth, sustainable wealth for ourselves and our families. So that is a critical part of those services as well. The mental health and wellness piece, combined with case management, which also gives our families access to medical and dental care, is obviously a critical part of stabilizing individuals and families and helping them move forward. If people aren't well, they can't do well. It's really that simple. And then finally, the community engagement piece. We understand that our families are part of a broader community, and the health and well-being of that community more broadly is predicated on the constituent parts of that community, which includes the some families. We also understand that the health of that broader community impacts our families. So when we do all of this work, we do this in the context of understanding that some and our families and our individuals are part of a broader system and a broader community that we're purposely focused on advancing as well. And then we also have youth programming, which is really dynamic. Our Some Places for Kids, which is the after school learning and care component. We have summer camps for young people and activities that go, educational activities, recreation activities that go with the Some summer camp. So it is dynamic programming. Archie is the Teddy Roosevelt leading us up the hill, charging up that family services hill. And Ms. Jones is one of our shining stars in that program. So I'm glad they've joined us. Give some people a sense of scale, about 225 families receiving family services, and that translates to between 450 and 500 children. So big program, central feature of what we do, and all in the context of that housing platform.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ralph. That really outlined the family services program and how important the holistic view that we take towards this is used at Some, and amazing that over 400 to 500 children are in our Some housing. Very, very cool. Next question I would like to ask is for Archie. And just having heard about family services more broadly, I was hoping you could paint us a picture of where we are today and where you see the program growing in the coming years.
Absolutely. I think Ralph really hit it on the nose with his history and speaking of family services and where we've come. I'd like to take it back to when I started family services in 2012. We had a focus on moving families from homelessness to home ownership, and we wanted to do this in a period of 5 to 7 years. We really put this forth, but what we recognized as we were able to grow in the process and learn from the families that was a very ambitious goal. And that some of the families that were with us, they weren't necessarily looking for home ownership right away. They were working for the process of trying to stabilize and really adjust to where they were and to grow from there. So with time, learning from that, we decided to become a little more holistic about our approach and to be more person-centered in the work that we do with families, helping to focus and identify their needs as opposed to more so what we felt or thought that they need to be able to position themselves. We wanted to focus on how this family sees themselves, who they want to be, who they aspire to be, and to really put them in the driving seat of their process and take ourselves out of the driver's seat. We've successfully done this through case management, as Ralph mentioned earlier, our community meetings, engaging families in programming. And we focus on those 4 main focal areas, as Ralph mentioned: education, economic development, mental health and wellness, and community engagement. These areas are so important because they encompass so much what we do. When we look at the needs of the families, we assess the needs. Many of them fall within these areas. And we recognize as we work to address the educational needs, the mental health needs, the financial needs, that we see our families become more equipped to be able to take on the challenges that they face and to really become the next generation of individuals who are there to help out other families in need. As I mentioned earlier, we're person-centered. I want to touch on this a little bit. We follow the person-centered approach by Carl Rogers, and it's important to us because this approach, it's an evidence-based approach that really helps us to be able to see the ability in the family, to see, I call it a little nugget of potential that the families have within them, that we recognize that really they come to us with the resources and the ability already within them to be able to accomplish their goals. It's just really our job to help cultivate that and to be a mirror for them to be able to see it themselves and guide them through the process of doing so. So we see all of our families as being very capable, having unique talents and abilities. And this approach allows us to really work in that direction to help them grow and really for them to capitalize on their strengths and abilities. We also utilize the stages of change and motivational interviewing. And many individuals may have heard these approaches as well. But what these allow us to do is to assess an individual's readiness for change and then help them increase their own internal motivation. I think many of us know that if a person does not want to change, it's really not much you can make them do. However, when you recognize, individuals recognize and they see it for themselves, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is the goal, then that's an opportunity for change to take place. And it's that individual's change, it's not us putting it upon them. So we've been very successful working with families in that area as well. One of the most important things I think that we do is that we're trauma informed. We recognize that years ago that roughly 85 to 88% of our families had experienced some level of trauma coming into the programs. A few years back, we recognized it to be roughly about 95%. I would venture to say that as we've gone through the past year and a half of experiencing COVID, there's probably roughly 99.9% of families and individuals that surround us that have experienced some form of trauma. So in being trauma informed, we greet our families with open arms. We're their support, we're understanding, we're empathetic, we're receptive, and we're open to what their challenges are, as opposed to being judgmental and keep individuals at arm's length. And this is very important for us to do because many of the families come to us, they don't want to receive what they received everywhere else. They want to know that they're coming to a place where people are welcoming, receptive, and aren't going to sit there and judge them based on the things they've been through. I think I would want that for myself as well. In family services, we'll continue to be innovative. I know Ralph will touch on this a little bit more, but in January of 2020, we launched our Accelerated Housing Program. And this was a goal of our leader, Rachel Nicholas, something she put forth and envisioned some time ago to have a program where the residents in our program have it in between our housing programs and home ownership. And this was an opportunity to help them to have the home ownership experience and develop goals around moving towards this process. We found some success in this program, and we're looking to continue on with this type of work as we move forward. We've also incorporated our our high school and college transition programs, which are helping to work with our youth. The reason I wanted to point that out is because we recognize that one of the ways to address the challenges that we face with homelessness and with poverty is to really address some of the generational challenges that pass on from family member to family member. So as we're working with the adult, the parent in the household, we want to make sure we're also working with the child to make sure that they're able to go forth and graduate high school, go to college, a trade program, military, whatever it is that they choose to aspire to be. We recognize that if we help our young people to address the issues that brought their families to us, that this helps them to stand a better chance of being able to thrive and go forth and be successful in their ventures. So this is just a touch of what we do in family services.
Wow, thank you, Archie. I think everything you said is so important, but what really stuck out to me was how we are person-centered in the work that we're doing. It's so important to recognize the potential that every single person within family services and at some has within them to reach their goals. So that's great that it's so important to family services. And yeah, thank you. now I'd love to hear, we just heard a little bit about the accelerated housing program that launched in 2020. And my friend, Miss Jones, is one of our accelerated housing residents. So I was wondering if Miss Jones, could you talk a little bit about your firsthand experience within the accelerated housing program at SUM, and how the different components of it are beneficial to you in reaching your goals?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Talena Jones again, and I've been in the accelerated housing program for about roughly over a year. I started out family services. Ralph and Archie put all the bullet points in because my kids, they graduated high school, got college degrees because of they've been in the kids program since they were like 9, 10, they adults now. I've been through family services, and all the support I received from family services is why I'm here. And I received help with but throughout the years, some has really helped me. I can't get into all of it. I'll be here 3 hours, but they really helped me and my kids. We was homeless. We started out homeless, and my kids have a stable home because of SUM. I was able to afford rent because of SUM. I was able to go to school and do things I needed to do because I didn't have to worry about market rent because I couldn't afford it because I was on low income. But anyway, that's what got me here through the accelerated housing program. The staff here, Mr. Renda, Miss Carolina, Miss Katrina, has made this program a success for me. The home buying process is like going through a maze. You lose yourself and you feel like you would never be able to own a home. But in this program, I feel like it's obtainable. It's like, I feel like a cheat sheet per se in the home buying process. We are provided with so much informative information through case management. We do monthly trailblazer meetings. I feel like we're ahead of the game because we also taught financial planning, so we won't be house poor. Debt to income ratio, meaning how much you owe each month compared to how much money you made. We learn down payment, closing costs, credit, inspection process, types of loans, like FHA, meaning borrowers who don't have large down payments, or USDA loans, that's like me, people that's on lower income who need help with financing that can't qualify for a conventional loan. In our Trailblazer meetings, we also do virtual tours. It's so exciting. So we can see what types of homes we would like and what types of homes we can afford in certain neighborhoods, you can't afford them, but we get to look at them. So it's just very exciting. But I feel like we're learning so much. The support here is phenomenal. The program was well put together, and throughout, I'm sorry, y'all, but I feel like the program was well put together and thought out. It's encouraging to know that I can own a home one day, because growing up in the neighborhoods you grew up in, you'd never, ever think that I will be at where I'm at now. So the support through SUM throughout the years, helping me and my kids, my kids, the first ones in the family, graduated college, graduated with honors. I received so much informative information through this program in a small amount of time I've been here, because when we first moved in, a month later, the pandemic hit. So we still received encouragement. We still did our monthly Trailblazer meetings. We still did our case management through Zoom. So we still felt encouraged. We didn't feel lost. We didn't feel like we was left here. Now the pandemic hit, what we going to do? So we still felt encouraged, and we still worked through the program. We still felt like, okay, I still can do this. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Renda, Miss Carolina, Miss Katrina, and everyone in the SUM staff that helped us. This is just a small portion of what SUM done for me. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jones. It's so nice to hear from the people at some like you who are going through these programs. Feedback is the most helpful thing for us to continue to improve and grow these programs, so that more people have access to this important work. And I especially liked your cheat sheet comment. I think as a young person, I definitely will also be looking for a cheat sheet on how to purchase my own home one day, because that is also a goal that a lot of people have. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's so amazing. It's really, truly great. And to sort of follow up on that, I was hoping that Ralph could touch a little bit more broadly on the affordable housing options offered to families served at some.
Yes, Allison, and you know I will get around to answering your question, but Ms. Jones has inspired me to make a few comments. So if I can exercise a little bit of executive privilege here. So as I listened to Ms. Jones, I thought, you know what? Our accelerated housing program and our family services programming generally, but our accelerated housing program and specifically exists because of the Ms. Joneses of the world. This is why, if anybody wants to know why we're here doing what we're doing, that was the best explanation, example of the why. And so let me just underscore for people what it takes to do what Ms. Jones has done and to be successfully in that accelerated housing program. So folks have to have, first of all, an aspiration for home ownership, for building wealth and home ownership. We say a stated desire, but it's got to be a stated desire backed up by doing stuff. And so what's the doing stuff that folks in the program have to do? They have to demonstrate that they can accumulate savings and that they in fact are. They have to show strong budgeting practices and the discipline around those budgeting practices. They have to avail themselves of financial literacy learning. I think you heard Ms. Jones give a tutorial on several financial concepts. I heard debt to income ratios, and it just made me smile. I have a bit of a banking background, among other things. So those are terms we use all the time. And they also have to show a steady employment, and in fact, an ascending employment trajectory, if you would. So this isn't just about being hopeful or talking about it or clapping hands about it or preaching and praying about it. This is about demonstrating the desire and the capacity to do that. And I don't think you could do that any better than Ms. Jones and her debt to income ratio conversation did. The other thing I would say from her comments is, this is a word I love to use, and I know it's too long. You could use a more simple word, but she just illuminated so many things of what we're talking about in this context. So when we talk about housing with supportive services affecting the determinants of a person's well-being, what did we hear from Ms. Jones? We heard stable home, safe home that she could rely on for her family. We heard about the impact that and the services and family services had on education. She's got people going to college, going to graduate. We again, the financial literacy piece. She is more financially literate than some people working in the sector. We heard about, the wealth creation piece, and of course the path to home ownership and what that looks like and the inspiration around it. So I just wanted to underscore those things. So if people think we're just here flapping our jaws, I think Ms. Jones demonstrated that there's a lot more than jaw flapping going on here. So the accelerated housing program, look, we want to grow this thing. The strategic plan for 2022 through 2026 focuses on, among many other things, us building 1,000 more units of housing in 5 years. We've got 1,100 units that are operational now. It took us, what, from 2006 to now to get there. In the next 5 years, we're going to almost double it. With all of the supportive services we're talking about and increasing enrollees and folks successfully navigating that accelerated housing program to home ownership at the end of that continuum. In the coming year, we want to add 10 additional units to that program, probably in the Thea Bowman House context. And again, what we're doing here is not just to treat the individual in the moment, but to treat the individual horizontally. And by that, I mean helping that person and transform, which will affect not just them and even just their family, but those around them horizontally in the broader community. We also want to affect them vertically, and that's the intergenerational piece. So because of what Ms. Jones is doing and has done, we already see the intergenerational impact. Her children are graduating from school and going to college, and their lives are going to be very different as a consequence than presumably the lives of their children. So this is, the 7 minutes she was speaking, I think just makes all the points, drives home all the points we're trying to make behind our family services programming generally, supportive services more broadly, the housing platform, and just what SUM's about.
Thank you, Ralph. That definitely, Ms. Jones underscores everything that we're trying to do within the family services in some context more broadly. We just had a quick question come in from one of the people attending, and I was hoping either Archie or Ralph, could you just explain the differences between the accelerated housing program and the family housing more broadly at SUM?
Want to take that, Archie?
I'll take a stab at it. Our family housing programs, they're open to any individual who's either experiencing homelessness, having challenges where they may be in a place where it's not suitable, or it may be too high of a cost to live. They meet a certain level of income and need to enter our program. So these programs are available to individuals. Individuals who have any types of needs that our program can accommodate. We're receptive to individuals, and we're working with them through the process of our 4 focal areas, helping to address whatever their needs are at that time. The accelerated housing program is a little more focused in a sense because it focuses on the home ownership process specifically. It's a 2-year program, so it is time bound in a sense that families are really not necessarily doing the case management in a sense that's focusing on addressing maybe some of the more basic needs or even some of the higher level needs, but they're focusing on, like Ms. Jones spoke about, they're meeting with financial institutions. They're meeting with providers in the district who provide specific information about home ownership opportunities. They're actually taking tours of houses and things of that nature. So the program is specifically tailored. It's kind of that in-between program, which is for individuals who are right at the process where they're looking to make that leap into home ownership, but they have an opportunity to really gain some more knowledge. And as Ms. Jones said, have a cheat sheet to be able to be up on the process. Right now, we know the housing market is very competitive, but the individuals going through the process, they are going to be competitors in this process and able to go after their dreams. So I hope that explains it, but it's a little more advanced in the housing process and that type of work than our other family housing units.
Thank you. Thanks, Archie. And Alison, perhaps I can put that in even a bigger context to show where family services fits in, and then the accelerated housing program is a subset of that. But just to give folks a real bird's eye view of our housing, our affordable housing programming, our housing typically targets people and families who are what we describe as in the income band that's 0 to 30% of AMI, and AMI just refers to Aryan median income. So our sweet spot is 0 to families and individuals that are 0 to 30% of AMI. Now, going forward, our housing will expand out a bit, and in some instances go as high as 0 to 50% of AMI. And to accommodate the accelerated housing program, in some instances will probably go 0 to 80% of AMI. The definition of affordable housing is certainly everything from 0 to 80%, but in some major metropolitan areas like the district of, like the National Capital Region and a lot of our coastal cities where housing is so expensive, it actually goes up to 0 to 120% of AMI. But our sweet spot typically is 0 to 30. We have some 0 to 50, and going forward, we'll, because of the accelerated housing program, probably in some instances go as high as 0 to 80% of AMI. That's kind of who we serve in our housing. And then, as we said, all of it comes with supportive services, and those supportive services break down into 3 bands: family services, single adult services, which is for our those in single adult housing that we have, and then our seniors, our senior housing. And then accelerated housing program is typically in the context of that family services. So 0 to 50, all those supportive services for individuals, families, and seniors, and then the accelerated housing program is kind of how we look at it. Within that single adult band are combat veterans, folks who have worked their way through our substance use disorder programming and are stabilized, having graduated from that programming. So that's kind of how this all fits in.
That's super helpful. And I see a thank you from Mr. Lamb. So I think that the question was answered. So thank you both for that. And I just have a question for Archie. Why we just heard Miss Jones' story, which is truly amazing, but I know that she is not the only one who have benefited from family services. So I was hoping you could share some initial results that you have seen that are exciting so far of the work that you've been doing.
Yes, Alison, we've been fortunate to see some of the fruits of our labor through our work with our residents and families. As we kind of spoke about, we have a lot of families. I just want to paint a quick picture. We have a lot of families that come to us a lot that are coming from extenuous situations. Sometimes individuals come to us, they may have been sleeping in their car, staying with a family member, even going as far as maybe sleeping in a laundry room. Many families may have escaped domestic violence or unsuitable living situations. Some of them come directly to us from the shelters. And what we've seen is that many of them have been able to go on and achieve their goals. When they come to us, we get the opportunity to kind of sit with them. Many times we're able to walk through and maybe show them their unit for the first time. And we see the tears and the sign of relief on their faces. They see their new home. And just to recognize that whatever they were experiencing before, this is an opportunity to move past that. We see our families as the individuals that they are, and individuals who need a helping hand. And as it was once said, and this was something that really touched me, it was said that we are the answered prayers to many of the individuals that come to us. So when we receive that, we take that and we recognize that that's a very important place to be, and a very challenging place to be sometimes. What I would say is that one of the families that rings out to me as I answer your question in my memory is we had one of the veteran families at our veteran program. She was a single mom. She came there with her 1-year-old son and her brother, who she had custody of as well. And prior to coming in the program, she was unemployed. She didn't have a place to live. But upon hearing about our services, one of the things she said, when we talk about home ownership, she said, I'm going to be a homeowner. And so we said, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what we're going to hold you to. But we were surprised that during the program, she decided to go forth, and she enrolled back into college. She finished her college degree in the nursing field. She later on became a pediatric nurse. She came to us the first day when she delivered her first child. She wanted to increase her salary and her savings greatly. And she told us that she was going to, she was working to be a part of the 700 credit score club. And so when she hit her 700 credit score and her 750 credit score, she made sure she let us know. But she later went on she met her husband while she was in the program. And she went on and she purchased her house. She purchased a newly built house in Southeast DC and was able to go on through that process and actually come back and really tell her story to other families. After leaving the program, we received an email noting that she was highlighted on DC Housing Authority's page as one of the families that they wanted to highlight. So that's one of the stories that stand out. More recently, we have a family with us who's been with us for over 10 years. And this individual moved in the program with her son. And during the pandemic, she went through a lot of challenges where she lost several family members. She lost her job, her income, and she had some setbacks with her health. But despite that, she was able to go forth and save over $20,000. She met her husband. They decided they wanted to move out of state. She would obtain employment out of state prior to moving. And through the process of going through this hybrid learning and the change for education, her son, who was identified as having special needs, graduated as a valedictorian of his class. So these are the times where we're able to see kind of the fruits of the work, not the work that just we put in, but the work that the families have put in, and to be able to tell the stories. And of course, we have Ms. Jones here who told her story as one of the families who is currently working with us. And there's many more stories of families that have come through our program and that were able to achieve great results. To me, it's really important because, like we spoke about earlier, we get to see that intergenerational change take place before our eyes. We get to see the next generation go forth and able to complete college or come back and gainfully employed, or able to come back and really be the next individuals as some to be able to help out the other families coming through the process. So I'm thankful for this opportunity, thankful for being able to experience this and to observe and watch and be a part of the lives of individuals like Ms. Jones and those families that we serve.
Thank you, Archie. And just like you were saying, it's so amazing to be able to hear these stories and see the growth in front of your own eyes. And it's just so great to hear that the intergenerational wealth is growing right before us. And that's such important work for creating an equitable society. So before we go on to our question and answers section, I just wanted to wrap up this conversation with a quick question to Ralph on how people on this call can help family services in some moving forward.
So Alison, I'm going to give you a biblical answer. And the biblical answer is time, treasure, talent, right? Time, treasure, talent. That's how you know what people care about. So the time and talent piece is that for folks who are interested in, feel inspired to volunteer for us in the space that Archie's been talking about, and Ms. Jones has been, I think, giving us a really vivid understanding of the value of that space. People can volunteer as tutors, particularly with respect to the programming around children. So if people have an ability or desire to volunteer in that space, we would welcome it. Obviously, it continues to be, with the Delta variant, a bit impacted by the context of almost a re-pandemic. But at the times it becomes safe to do so, we would welcome volunteers in this space. Part of our strategic plan going forward is to really build out our volunteer platform to give people a much broader range of opportunities to contribute their time and talent in ways that we need it, and ways that'll be enrich their own experiences as some volunteers. They can donate their treasure specifically to SOME's Amazon wish list that provides opportunities to purchase things for our young people, like math, reading, vocabulary games, those kinds of things. And then, of course, they can donate to SOME more generally. And I would say what I hope people on the call understand, which is that $1 to us is an investment in us, but we're greedy in terms of the return on investment that we give you. You invest $1 in us, you should not expect $1 in human gain that we'll create you should expect that we have a Goldman Sachs or a Carlyle Group or Blackstone idea about the multiple of gain that we expect to create. So you invest $1 in us, we're not going to give you $1 of human gain. We're going to try to give you a 30 or 40 or 50 multiple in that dollar. And folks should also understand that more than 90 cents on every dollar that's donated to some goes directly to program and service. So our G&A, our overhead for our scale and size is relatively small proportionately. So invest in us. Time, treasure, talent is how you can help. And then also talk about us in your various networks and communities and friend circles. Talk about our work and talk about our focus on saving lives, improving lives, transforming lives. Speak the language, if you will. Preach, and when necessary, use words.
Well, thank you so much for that. That's helpful in making sure that there's a good takeaway in addition to all of the really interesting things that we learned in the conversation. So it looks like we have a first question for Ms. Jones. So is there anything some could do or provide moving forward that would help you to best or better meet your family's goals moving forward?
Basically, they're doing a great job. Only services basically that hold people back is jobs. So far as the case management, the family housing, the services we receive, they perfect. It's just like what held me back so long was, couldn't find a job, but they helped with the education. I went through some program. I graduated in the medical administrative program. So that helped out, but a lot of people might not be interested in that type of program. So I was talking about it a couple of years ago. I said, we want some to do everything, but I do, because the only way I ever made it through life is through some. I graduated from so many programs, welfare to work programs, and so many, and never received the services. It was just about, let me get you out of here type of stuff. But they went intensive with me. I was going through family loss. They helped me get counseling. They go abroad to help you. It's not just let me help you find a job and get off some type of stuff. It's like, how can I help you physically, emotionally, and mentally so that you won't have to fall back here anymore? You can be successful in life. So everything is great. Only thing that probably hold a lot of people back is jobs. And it's not some fault that they can't give you jobs all across the board, but they gave me a job too. I work for some. I'm an on-call person. A lot of people would hire me, so, but some gave me a chance. I've been working for some for 2.5 years now. So it's like, it's just amazing. So it's a lot, like really nothing bad that I can say. Or, they doing everything they can possibly. I was telling my kids, I said, you just don't know what people do. Because when I did on call, it's a lot of homeless people that come, they feed across the street. But then they got a program where they let you come in, take a shower, wash your clothes, cut your hair. I was like, I never seen stuff like this, and I try to explain to my kids, you got to be grateful. I said, you just don't know that they do so much. It's not about family services. It's not about education. They do everything for people. That don't matter what situation you're in, what type of mental capacity you have, what type of person you are. You got a criminal record. They try to work with you on getting jobs, getting your life back in order. They don't discriminate against anyone. And I just want to say thank you.
Alison, I have to respond to that. I can't keep quiet in the face of that. Archie, you're laughing, it too. So first of all, thank you, Ms. Jones. I mean, I could talk to till the cows come home, and I wouldn't make the case as well as you did. So thank you for actually succeeding. That's the reward for us. But having said that, what I want people on the call to understand is a big priority in our strategic plan going forward is to begin to, in a really rigorous way, measure the impact we're having. Because as well as we think we're doing, we need to know in a more certain way how well we're doing, where we're not doing as well as we should or could be doing. You can't, our model requires constant improvement in terms of how we frame our services, how we deliver our services. And I'm sure as we take a more rigorous look, do a more rigorous self-assessment of all of our programs and services, we're going to find some areas where we really need to get better. So as we scale up, we also have to scale better. And when we get that, and the only way we're going to know where to do that, how to do that, and get some clues on what the self-improvement looks like is to really measure in a much more disciplined and rigorous and methodological way than we do now.
Definitely. It's so important to measure successes and things that need to continue to evolve over time as the population more generally changes over time. We have another question from someone in the audience. It's a two-part question. And they're asking, as we have seen many young athletes and celebrities talk about the importance of their mental health, what services does SUM provide to family housing residents, excuse me, specifically the younger residents, to take care of their mental health? And then the second part of that question is, additionally, young people have really been taking the lead and bringing light to combat social and racial injustices. Does SUM offer advocacy support for those interested in making a change in their communities?
I can take a try at the first part. So as far as mental health services, we have an on-site clinical team that are part of our staff who provide on-site clinical services, which include therapy, counseling, even groups as well. This is available for the entire family. We provide individual counseling for the children, the adults, and any supports that they need. So each year we work with the families to do assessments to identify any challenges, any mental health, emotional health challenges, and just really work with the families to support them in those areas. So on site, those services are provided. We work with our youth we have a self-esteem group that we work with our youth, where we bring them together and give them an opportunity to kind of talk and work together through challenges that they may face. We have it for different age groups as well. Clinical services, mental health services are an important part to what we do. Matter of fact, we just changed the name to our wellness team because we're focusing beyond just the mental health, emotional health, but also the physical health as well. We understand that if families aren't healthy, that they aren't successful, and they aren't able to really go forth and be able to do the things that's put before them. So thank you for bringing it bring up that question, because clinical services and mental health services are really at the heart of what we do. The approaches I spoke about earlier, person-centered motivational interviewing, those are actual clinical counseling approaches that we utilize within our entire team so that this support is infiltrated through all that we do.
Yeah, and I'll take the second part of that question to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I hope it won't be a surprise to anybody that embedded in one of our priorities in our strategic plan is to get after this issue of DEI, if you will, more broadly. And we're continuing to build out what that looks like. But I can tell you what it means for our organization is that both from a transactional perspective, from an employment perspective, from a cultural perspective, a leadership perspective, and an advocacy perspective, DEI is embedded not just as a bolt-on to what SUM does, but is embedded in kind of how we execute everything that we do. In talking about DEI internally, I've said to people, I don't have a very academic interest in this. And we're not in the business of, holding a sociology class on diversity, equity, inclusion. How I care most about it is how DEI impacts how we deliver the mission, how well we run this business, and how well we deliver the mission and the level of impact we have on people's lives. And DEI, getting that right, helps us transact this business better. It helps us run the business better, and it helps us deliver services better. And it makes sure that everything we do occurs in a context where we understand the impact of DEI on the people we serve and the communities that they're in. And so if I heard the question, there may be embedded in that question a question about whether part of our work with young people involves helping them with advocacy around DEI issues. And I don't know if I would say we do it that specifically or purposefully, but I think the DEI piece is embedded, or at least becoming to be embedded in everything that we do, because we've got to understand the extent to which those issues impact the people we serve, impact the structures and systems around them, and of course their communities. So my message is, when you see the published part of our strategic plan, you'll see DEI is one of those priorities embedded in the culture, talent, and leadership piece going forward.
Thank you so much for setting that context and for answering that question. It looks like we are coming up on the 11 o'clock hour. So I know if you had asked a question, my colleague Stephen has been typing answers back to you. And if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. But to finish things up, we have another poll to just learn about how this morning's conversation went and how we can use your feedback to make sure that community conversations moving forward meet your expectations. So if you could take a second to just fill that out, that would be really appreciated. And thank you again, everyone joining us, and Ralph, Archie, and Miss Jones. This conversation was so interesting and super important and timely. And I feel like I have learned so much. So I really hope that everyone on the call also has learned a lot and has steps to take moving forward to ensure that the Family Services Program at SUM continues to grow and thrive. And in that vein, we have our next community conversation, which comes on October 7th at 10 a.m. So make sure to mark your calendars for that. The focus on that conversation will be more broadly affordable housing across all populations at SUM. And one last thing to mention, in September, 8 Safeways across the district have generously partnered with us for our SUM Breakfast for Kids, which will be benefiting children in the year 2022 who may or may not have healthy food options during school breaks. So we will make sure to get those locations to everyone on this call. And so if you're planning to go grocery shopping in September, make sure to mention SUM Breakfast for Kids at those locations so we can make sure that all children have the necessary nutritious meals they need to thrive. And thank you so much. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my colleague, Stephen Marcus, who is the Vice President of Individual Philanthropy at SUM. His phone number is 202-350-9199, or you can reach him at email at smarcus marcus@sum.org. And thank you all so much again for joining us.
Thank you, Allison.
Have a great day,
Archie and
everyone.
Ms. Jones.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.